Welcome into the Show 6 podcast, where we break down the championship series for Pokemon Go. In this episode, we're going to do a Precious Paths roundup covering key points in Birmingham, Merida, Auckland, Santiago, and Sydney. Then we'll move on to Seattle, where apparently, at least according to StoneCollection, NA is pretty free. That concludes our Precious Paths meta, and we segue beautifully into the Memories in Motion. In the Memories in Motion meta, we'll give our first impressions and answer the question, which Pokemon are back? This plus a little brief overview of the new PvP system rollout disaster. What the heck is going on? Get all that and more here on the Show 6 podcast. So lock in, good luck, and have fun. All right, welcome back, everybody. Speediest Chief 2 here with my illustrious co-host, Zzweilous. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling very surprised, I must say. These days, we never really know what kind of intro we are going to get. Obviously, we always switch these spoken intros up, but also I feel like the theme music has been like taking on a life of its own recently a little bit. I don't mind it. I will not say that this is like something that I'm upset about, but yeah, it did certainly catch me off guard here.
It's one of those things where it happened the last time we recorded because during our recording, I had to delete the clip that I had because it was playing on infinite loop. I had to delete it and then I added in a clip mid conversation, and that's what we use as the outro music. And then I just forgot to go in and find the original recording and put it back into Zencaster. So here we are. We've got a lot of surprises. I was shocked to see StoneCollection win in NA and then immediately talk trash. But we're going to talk about all that and a lot more.
Like
Because we've
Stone
got
immediately talking trash wasn't the biggest surprise for sure.
it's so funny
Yeah.
too because I think he attended what 2 NA events so far this season. At both of them, I talked to him. He's such a nice person, so easy to
He
get along
is.
with. He's all smiles, and then he'll turn around with that crap eating grin and he'll say, "Yeah, NA kind of free, right?" I'm a little stuck on that, but we have to do our chores here on around the Show 6 podcast. We have a lot of events that we kind of skipped over due to scheduling problems. We weren't able to give these events the full scope of what they deserve. So we're going to hit some of the high points. If you want to come to a championship series podcast and you want to hear the best of the best, the crispiest of the takes, the hottest of the stats, you came to the right spot. So ZZ, let's jump right in, my friend. Let's talk about Birmingham.
Oh yeah, Birmingham. That was starting off, or I think starting off kind of ish. Like there was a triple header weekend all the way back in January. So this was really kind of at the start of the previous season. We are now memories in motion. But what were we? It was Tales of Transformation. Was that what it
Mm,
was?
I believe so,
Jesus.
yes.
So yeah, so that was kind of fresh still. It wasn't the biggest of updates, but we had the Toronto Regional Championships before that, and then people in Birmingham, in Auckland, and I believe in Merida were all tasked with finding a response to that. And Birmingham's response saw Maximilian P. Maxi, the Utrecht runner-up from last season, finally claim his gold with a double ghost strategy focusing heavily on Annihilate and Jellicent.
Yeah, speaking to that core, if you look back at the games that were actually played, he brought that duo of both the Jellicent and the Shadow Annihilate in all 8 games of the Grand Finals and Grand Finals reset. He did not leave those 2 Pokemon on the bench. And this is a little bit surprising to everybody, right? Because we did have a couple of dark type Pokemon that were pretty popular. I think Galarian Moltres is always kind of lurking around. You might see the occasional Guzzlord here and there. But fun fact, Guzzlord has only won 1 championship series event this entire season. It feels like it should be more, but it's actually only the one. So I guess Maxi kind of saw a hole in the meta. He saw what wasn't there and was able to exploit it. So very, very good grand finals. You always get that though with Maxi and Patoman. And this grand finals actually was what really locked down my interview that I did for EUIC because I brought on both those gentlemen, right? We had Patoman, the previous EUIC winner who would go on to win it again. And then we had Maxi who had just won Birmingham. So a couple shout outs I wanted to make before we get deep into the grand finals is Tantan Batus. He finished 4th overall with a Clefable, Shadow Dragonite, and Fortress team. which is really sick. And then we saw Jox and Arceus Aurelius tied for ninth with Goregeist and Guzzlord Core, which I think is a very nice kind of prelude to what we're going to see in Merida here in a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Especially that Goregeist, which was probably the most prominent Tales of Transformation edition. Really, this was the weekend where it first came to shine. A couple more shout outs. I think there is actually some personal best placements here as well. Like I think Limefang hasn't top cut before. I don't particularly know exactly whether Jason top cut before, but there's a Toadscrew Bastiodon team that actually made it into the top 16. No
Oh,
comment on that selection,
uh,
but you have to first pilot it well, right? So
yeah.
that is a thing that happened. Martijn not winning. I feel like that is international news. Martijn not winning a tournament. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't Giratina's day, but it was still tied for ninth. And
Yeah.
then personal bests for Smejo, a Polish battler in fifth place, and as well I think for Arrow Bubble 66 as well. I don't know whether there was like something similar in the past, but I was certainly pleasantly surprised to see some of the um, like less of European staples, right? You have the Collins, you have the PvP Davids, you have the Emmy Wheelers. There's just such a depth of talent, and I do love when the hard work pays off. And I believe the same goes for C. Leonardo, who
Mm.
is obviously no stranger to top cuts, but I believe the third place finish was his best performance to date. And I do want to point out that he did that with a Shadow Charger bug. And the idea behind the Shadow Charger bug, to my knowledge, is that you are actually able to force alignment in the Altaria matchup because
Oh.
over time, the 20% bonus from the Shadow adds up with the world switches and discharges, so the Altaria's bulk is actually not able to match the Charger Bug's pacing in the two-shield scenario anymore.
Interesting. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I was planning to talk about Chargebug, but not yet. So it's actually cool that we got a little anecdote about Chargebug there, and that's always the big question, right? We saw like a mix of Altaria and Shadow Altaria in Seattle and tournaments prior, and the question always becomes, if you already have a bulky Pokemon and the Shadow is not obviously better, then what matchups are you picking up? And for Chargebug, I did not know that, so that's actually really interesting. Yeah, Inadequence, he always says he's not bringing Giratina, and then he does. Uh, and this time, I think he tweeted out, if my memory is not failing me here, he tweeted out and said the spice was too much. So he brought double dragons in Shadow Giratina altered form and Guzzlord, as well as a Clefable Gastrodon, Grumpig, and Shadow Talonflame. Now, the Grumpig, we are going to see a flash of that in Seattle as well. But I want to point out the teams that beat Inadequance here. He fell to Pataman, who is running a Shadow Fortress Azumarill Abomasnow team, which feels like very, very hard counter unless he's very lucky with his Talonflame. And then he lost to Smeyu, which had double steel in Corviknight and Shadow Scizor. So when you have double dragons and a Clefable and you're going up against a double steel team, that's got to be tricky. So maybe a little bit of a not a very lucky draw there for Inadequance. But yeah, some very, very nice finishes here. And Aerobubble's a name that I've seen so many times before. He's been around the scene for quite a while. So it's great to see them finish fifth overall with Ninetales, actually.
Yeah, and like he's been playing at Worlds before too. Like this is like no stranger to good finishes, but still, the top five is always really nice to take that away, especially from such a big tournament as the UK ones are always some of the most well attended.
Yeah.
But yeah, grand finals between Maxi and Patoman, the world's runner up and the world's fifth place finisher, I believe.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, certainly goes to show that Europe very much is not free. One thing about Pataman's team is the Obama Snow that really stood out to me, which is a
Mhm.
Pokemon that I haven't like I've barely seen people try that out at all over the course of this entire championship series season.
Mhm.
But the last time I actually actively perceived an Obama Snow was in Lille when Hikami actually won it all with the Obama Snow. So there will be other Obama Snow users, but the two that I remember came first and second. So maybe there's something to that Pokemon.
Yeah, maybe so. That's it's a fascinating Pokemon because you assume in Europe when the European bird Talonflame is more prevalent than anywhere else in the world, and then you also have your fair share of Annihilate and other counter users that could potentially beat up on the Abomasnow pretty badly. It is surprising to see it, but yeah, I could kind of see the place for it. A lot of teams with I see Jellicent, Cradily, Guzzlord, Azumarill, Unova Stunfisk. There's tons of targets for that Pokemon, so yeah, I think that makes sense. Just a little bit of
Yeah,
a tough draw there for Pato taking on Maxi in the finals. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, what is nice about Obama Snow is that with the ice subtyping, it always breaks up the ground and flying cores, which is one of the most prominent cores. And also, one thing that was evident after Toronto is that Florges is actually a very, very strong pick. And the standard Florges moveset in Trailblaze and Chilling Water has both of the charge attack walled by grass types. So I can see that be a calculation as well. But yeah, I feel like it happens a lot with Pato that at least in Open Great League, he finds himself in matchups where he's really heavily disadvantaged just looking at the team composition, and he still somehow finds ways of making that close. And yeah,
Mhm.
if you look at his team here against Maxi, there is no dark type on the team. There is no normal type on the team. So what is really discouraging the ghosts from coming every game? Not really much at all. And yeah, Maxi managed to leverage, especially the Jellicent, really, really well here. Because like even a grass type such as Obama Snow needs to hit the energy ball to really threaten that, unless you opt for Leafage as your fast attack. But that comes with other issues. So for sure, the Jellicent, a standout pick. Now pacing a little faster since the Shadow Ball rework, getting to the big move in just 4 hexes. So certainly a Pokemon that we will see more of in the future.
Oh yeah, being able to stack shadow balls is one of the best feelings. I mean, I notice in scrims or even in Go Battle League, being able to bank two and switch out or throw one and then come back in later and have another one already ready to go is such a nice feeling. But you're right, Potaman was at a massive disadvantage here. He ended up losing coming. He came in on the winner's side. He ended up losing 0-3 to force the bracket reset, and then he lost two more to Maxi and was on the brink right then and there of going 0-6 before he was able to win two games against Maxi and tie up the series. So realistically, even though he was at such a massive disadvantage and lost 5 games in a row, he really made it the difference of just one battle. Uh, he could have
Yeah.
ended up winning Birmingham, which would have been insane.
There's unwinnable team compositions, and then there's the Partuman unwinnable, which is like, okay, it's very close to a 50-50 still. But
Yeah.
yeah, like Maxi obviously also not somebody who really gives his opponents too many opportunities to cash in on like slight inaccuracies. Like he's
Mhm.
been really consistently performing well over, I would say, the last year at this point. Because
Oh yeah.
if you remember, this is his second grand finals, and the first time was in Utrecht a year ago, and he had a move ready. He just needed to click it. He overfarmed anyway, and then lost the match on a miscount.
Yeah.
So it was as close to a gold medal as somebody possibly could have been in their PvP career. And yeah, now claiming it. Sometimes you just need to make the right team composition call, right? It's not just,
Yeah.
it's still not luck if you have a comp advantage. It's just building the correct team. I don't know whether Steelix Wigglytuff is morally correct, but I guess you'll have some things to say on the Wigglytuff for sure.
Hey, hey, that felt personal. Okay, whenever we talk about
Uh,
Seattle, yeah, everybody will hear why. I just want to give a few stats about the grand finals. As we alluded to earlier, Maxi was really leaning on the double ghost. He brought Jellison Annihilate 8 out of 8 total battles that were played. His third Pokemon cycled out a little bit. He brought Wigglytuff 6 times. He brought Shadow Steelix once, and then Shadow Kento Marowak just one time. So he was willing to change it up here and there. But it didn't always work out for him. When he did bring the Shadow Steelix in the Grand Finals reset, he did lose that game to Potaman. That was Potaman's first win of only two in the entire Grand Finals. But I'm so proud of Maxi and Pato as well, because during that interview for the EYC pre-show, everybody Maxi said he came off the stage in Utrecht and everybody was so, distraught. They're like, "Oh, Maxi, you almost had it. You almost won. You came so close." And Maxi said that he felt happier than they did. He said, "I really outperformed my expectations and I made it to grand finals and I was only a couple plays away and I take that as a win." And I think that's a really important mindset to have. And I'm glad he was able to have that mindset because I don't know, I would have had some sleepless nights over that personally.
Yeah, I guess like maybe there was some confidence already there that he can repeat that. Like if you have like some trust in your ability that okay, I'll just get it done the next time.
Yeah.
Maybe that is something that helps in that moment. But or like, oh, this is a personal best placement. I have so much to be proud of, which is also a very valid and encourageable feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's
I agree.
certainly kept the setup and yeah, he followed up the Utrecht run with a top five finish at Worlds, as we alluded to. So certainly
Yeah.
didn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, he's insanely talented, very good. And Maxi, Shadow Steelix is morally acceptable. You can keep playing that thing because I think it's awesome and I like it too. All right, we promised a quick roundup, ZZ. I think we should slide over to Merida unless you have any closing thoughts on Birmingham.
Uh, Closing thought is that I am of the pocket school of if I don't have a good version of that Pokemon, you should not use it. Non-Shadow Steelix
Okay.
all the way. Um,
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
speaking of pocket and players like him, because I feel like Merida is one of those like it's really a sweet spot location between LATAM and North America. Like
Mhm.
geographically, North America, culturally LATAM, and just such a nice place to visit. Friends of mine always encourage me to eventually take Merida as one of my vacations each year and just play in
Yeah.
that tournament because even beyond the tournament, it's just such a beautiful place to visit. And apparently, all the elite performers of all the continents also were of that same opinion.
Yeah.
Because in top eight, we have Ellen Diaz-Rajev, we have Marto Galde, we have Out of Pocket. We do have some local Mexican representation in Paul Garcia 7, Rocha Babyface, Ashton Ash as like somebody who really bridges that U.S. Mexico gap, and
Mhm.
Spartan L17, with I think a personal, I don't know, was it personal best or was it like personal second best? But
Yeah, I'll show you in a
certainly
second. Go ahead.
another very impressive performance. The player who knocked me out of EU, I see, by the way. So certainly on form the last couple months.
Yeah.
And yeah,
For
only
Spartan,
falling to the one and only rise to occasion, doing it
My
again.
apol- my apologies. So for Spartan, I just wanted to get this before I forget. This actually ties his best performance. He's been to the grand finals at 3 events and he's finished second every single time. So 2022 Mexico City, he was second overall, and then 2026 Monterrey, he also finished second. So Spartan has yet to win an event in his career, and I'm sure he'd love to do it in Mexico.
Oh yeah, like certainly as somebody who like I have won an event, not to brag, but I've also come second 4 times in a row now, so I have a lot of empathy for the people that come close but don't quite make it. Yeah, Spartan's certainly on a hot streak. The problem is if Rise to Occasion hasn't won an event yet this season, he will do it eventually. So maybe now we're
True.
safe, but the Merida competition certainly was not safe, and they were not safe off in particular that gore guys that we alluded to earlier.
I mean, he might just become Thanos to the occasion because he's inevitable, right? Rise seems to win a tournament every single year, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. It was really funny in the Uber ride to the venue in Seattle. I asked him because he offered to share the Uber with me, which is really nice. I said, "Rise, so how does it feel to get the win? I know you don't like to think about this. I know this isn't something that's at the top of your mind all the time." And he kind of, he did this rise look where he kind of looked down and looked a little shy, and he was like, "Not gonna lie, man, it feels pretty good." I said, "Yeah, I bet
I
it
would
does."
imagine.
Yeah, but
Uh,
he's so bashful, right? He'll never come out and just scream it from the rooftops. But yeah, this definitely meant a lot to Rise. Very interesting team for him as well. Florges, Gorgeist, Guzzlord, Lapras. Which I mean, this feels like Toy Story. You pull your old toy out of the box and you're like, hey, maybe this thing can still do some fun things. And apparently, Lapras can still work. It's also the Shadow Scizor and Unova Stunfisk. So fun team here from Rise, very solid team. Gorgeist is going to be the main topic of our discussion. But right before we get into grand finals, I just want to mention one thing here, CC. So as you look at this top 10, we had a lot. We had an infestation of electric bugs. Third place, fourth place, fifth place, sixth place, seventh place, ninth place, and 10th place were all running Charge Bug. So, what in the world is going on with the Charge Bug? And I noticed that none of them are Shadow.
Okay, so first of all, I consider myself Chargerbug's strongest soldier. I bring that thing to almost every event I attend. I believe it's so good because it's so flexible, so neutral. It's an electric that doesn't immediately falter to ground type damage. It is very spammy. It has good coverage. It has actually like it's a bug type, which like typically isn't considered a very good typing, but it has such useful defensive utility against fighting types, against ground types. And the reason why I believe Charger Bug was so prevalent in Merida has to do with Toronto. We only had Toronto as an indication of what would be good in that meta. And Toronto had Empoleon as a water type, and then three flying types. Shadow Gyarados does not want to get Volt Switched. Corviknight, not a fan of that matchup either. And then the Altaria, for which you would maybe need a Shadow tag that hasn't really made its way to Merida just yet. But still, I feel like there's just so much neutral play to be had, or even very positively polarizing play in your favor to be had, that electric types were a little bit of a theme this tournament. And if you look at the teams that didn't run Charger Bug in the top 8, all of them had Unova and Stunfisk. So there was not a team without an electric type, although we just saw a Triple Flyer and an Empoleon sweep a tournament.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, now that you frame it that way, yeah, the electric type coverage is everywhere. I mean, Charge Bug also has good targets in things like Azumarill, and I think the matchup versus Scizor is very playable, right? Very competitive. So it's got a ton of neutral play, like you mentioning the flexibility. Yeah, I was looking at this list here on Dracoviz. I'm like, man, where do all these freaking bugs coming from? But that makes perfect sense, and I think that in context of Toronto, that's what a lot of people have to consider because it might feel like the meta is always a moving target, but it's always a response to the previous meta, or at least in most cases it is. Um, but yeah, what a fun set. I think for this one, I do have notes on the grand finals. I forget exactly where I saw the stream, but I was able to watch it. I think there was a YouTube video. Yeah. So there's a YouTube video that was actually posted by Karma Beam, which I think is the organizer for the event. And this was a quick grand finals. This was a 3-0 in favor of Rise. So he was very comfortable in this. And fun fact for you, ZZ, this is only the second 3-0 grand finals of the season. The only other
Oh,
player to sweep 3-0 from the winner's side was Inadequence in Stuttgart.
that's a very inadequate thing to do.
It is,
Uh,
he gets good alignment and you can't stop him. I'm just kidding. He's very, very talented. But yeah, Rise and Inadequacy, only two trainers to come in on the winner's side bracket and sweep 3-0 through the grand finals. So, something I did want to mention about Rise's team as we circle back towards the grand finals is that Rise was running Disarming Voice and Chilling Water on his Florges. He dropped the Trailblaze, which going into Seattle, I expected to see more Rise style Florges, but I did not. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Disarming Voice Chilling Water over the Trailblaze and Chilling Water?
I think with Trailblaze, like obviously boosting your attack is quite nice, but having all resisted moves does make the Altaria matchup kind of iffy, and you do want your fairy to be a good response to the most popular dragon. And if you are running a grass type such as Gourgeist, maybe you just get your grass damage from elsewhere. And speaking of the Gourgeist, because obviously that is the standout pick, we just talked about the meta as a moving target. And what I really like about the Gourgeist is that it is the anti meta pick. You were looking at the meta, oh, that's a lot of flyers and waters. You bring the anti meta pick of Charjabug or Unova Stunfisk, and then you bring a Pokemon that not only has Incinerate to burn down the Charjabug, but also walls off the entire moveset of Unova Stunfisk. So truly, Rise being a step ahead of the game once more.
No, absolutely. And if you look at the grand finals matchup, we had Rise's team. Like I mentioned earlier, real quick, Florges, Gourgeist, Guzzlord, Lapras, Shadow Scizor, Unova Sunfisk, Spartan, L17 with Shadow Altaria, Purified Credilli, but not running return, don't worry. Furret, Gastrodon, Shadow Scizor, and Unova Sunfisk. So just immediately looking at the team here from Spartan, I would say the Gourgeist can hit at least 3 out of these targets for a lot of damage and basically control that matchup. Looks like Gourgeist also wins the 0s and 1s versus Cradilly, so there's a ton of play there as well. I think the toughest matchups obviously being Shadow Altaria and the Furret with Sucker Punch, but my goodness, Gourgeist looks so free into this comp.
Yeah, and especially if you look at what do a Sucker Punch Furret and a Shadow Altaria not want to see? Maybe a Florges with disarming voice? That could be pretty tricky. Um,
Good point. Good point.
also, Rise Guzzlord is essentially unchecked into the comp of Spartan, so there's certainly just so many good options for him that I can't really blame Spartan for not taking a game of Rise because this again feels like a very tough comp to overcome.
Yeah, this is almost an impossible team composition, especially in the hands of someone like Rise, who's just so experienced. He's not going to let anything slip by. I don't want to spend too much time in the grand finals. If you were able to watch the VOD, it is a nice little watch. Good showcase of Rise and his Gourgeist. When he knows he has an advantage, he does not let it go, as I just mentioned. But one thing I wanted to call out was in game number 3, Rise just applies a full court press to Spartan. He throws a brutal swing into Spartan Scizor. Spartan shields it, and then Rise immediately insta swaps his Scizor, and I guess Spartan maybe waits a turn. They both throw a Night Slash at the same time, and Rise's Scizor wins the Night Slash, and just you can feel the momentum in that series just really swing all the way firmly over to Rise's side with that single play alone. But a lot of really good plays here by Rise. He was able to align his Gourgeist versus the Unova Sunfisk at least twice, and once you do that, it's pretty much game over. So cheers to Spartan, though, for another great performance. He beat a lot of really talented trainers on his way to the grand finals, including Ashton Ash twice, Rocha Babyface, Corlash, and the lovely Kelsey K with her Guzzlord. But just wasn't enough to overcome the Rise to occasion.
Yeah, it's like Spartan really like Kelsey K, a teammate of mine. Then Spartan comes to EUAC, beats me. I don't know what he has against the team of Sharks and Recreation, but he's certainly keeping the waters Sharks free.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, Merida certainly an event that I do want to attend eventually, and maybe I get my revenge. But yeah,
Oh, all right.
not that there
Well,
are any hard feelings or anything because there are not.
yeah.
But you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's I got the sweet and savory vibes there. Sweet to see the city and savory when you're actually able to take that victory and avenge those previous losses, especially against your fellow sharks. I mean, maybe Spartan is a fan of the Jaws movie. He thinks that all those sharks need to go. Who knows? But we promised you a speedy episode. We're going to keep on rolling because I think we've exhausted our Merida coverage. We can talk about Auckland, which I think we'd have to shout out to PvP Steve because he actually has footage of this event.
yeah, like always shout out to PvP Steve, one of the most involved people in the community, delivering community streams, traveling the world. He was in San Juan today for the Puerto Rican special event. He did not get his first win that he was teasing that he wanted to take. He did finish ninth place. But again, this is still a fantastic journey to make. Nothing but love for Steve. And yeah, Auckland, another destination type of regional. But I don't actually believe that people from abroad tried to contest that title. I think this was just very much an Aussie plus New Zealand affair.
Yeah, I really really admire Steve so much, and I saw his post right because he looks so serious. I'll try to put it up here at 29 minutes in the show if you're watching the YouTube version. But I saw his post, and he's wearing his glasses, and he looks so serious. And the post says "Time to win one," and then I checked the bracket, and I'm like, oh, just didn't quite get there,
Uh,
Steve. Maybe next time, my dear
yeah,
friend.
yeah, yeah. There's still South Africa.
That's true. There's oh wait, no, no, no. I'm not talking about Auckland. I'm talking about the one that's happening this weekend. I got a little carried away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Like we've just been on the topic of PvP, Steve, who is like synonymous with um, Aussie PvP, right?
yes, yes.
So no,
Well,
okay, he did come seventh in Auckland, by the way. So maybe that is the transition that we need to get into that tournament. That was won
yes.
by maybe the new powerhouse on the Australian PvP scene in Geomethy, actually taking it with a team of Altarian Empoleon, the classic core, Wigglytuff, speak of the devil, Kanto Marowak. No more of that in the next season, as well as
Mm.
Licky Licky and Shadow Annihilate. A lot more of that in the next season.
No,
Taking
absolutely.
down Godzilla in the grand finals, so as a team that overlaps three times, well, two and a half times because Godzillama's Altaria is actually Shadow. Then there's also Licky Licky, also a Marowak, but Shadow Scizor, Charger Bug, so two bug types, as well as Azumarill round out Godzillama's team.
Very nice. I can tell you're maybe a fan of Godzillama's team with the double bugs. That looks pretty interesting. I do have a quick recap here of our grand finals. This did go to a game five, so Jumothy really had to fight his way through this. Game one, the highlight was that Godzillama caught a shadow ball onto his Licky Licky, and Jumothy actually lost that battle with two shields. It was kind of like, all right, you've outplayed me, and we're just kind of going to punt to the next battle and just see how things go. Game number two belonged to Jumothy. Jumothy got a 2-0 shield advantage and sent out his Empoleon versus Azumarill to sweep things up. Game number three belonged to Godzillama. Jumothy insta-swapped into his Licky Licky, which was, I mean, that's pretty much what you expect because Jumothy led his Wigglytuff into Shadow Scizor. Gasp for all of our Wigglytuff fans that are listening. Scizor got the boost and absolutely just swept through the team. So there's really nothing that Jumothy could do. But then in the fourth and fifth battle, Jumothy did strike back. He started off game number four strong. He was able to connect Flamethrower from his Altaria into Charjabug, tank two discharges to win the lead, which, according to the expert Zzweilous, that would not happen against a Shadow Charjabug. It would crush it, right? So
Exactly.
so maybe he got a little bit lucky there. And then Jumothy's Licky Licky survives Rock Slide on 1 HP to land a charge attack against the Kwak and win. So now we're all tied up going into game number five. Jumothy leads his Empoleon into Azumarill. Uh, and then, yeah, so Jumothy wins lead. He swaps to Altaria to save Empoleon. Godzillama brings in the Kanto Marowak. Jumothy recognizes his win condition is to mud slap through. Godzillama loses with two shields, which is highly poetic because that's just how Jumothy lost game one of the grand finals. So very well done by him. And yeah, Godzillama, a trainer that I recognized from last season when he was able to win an event. And yeah, it's really cool to see Jumothy win events. And I'm telling you this not purely from a personal bias because Jumothy beat me at NAIC last year, and now I can say I lost to a two times regional champ.
Yeah, like honestly, like really proved himself as a giant slayer even all the way back then. Trying to look up the matchup. Oh, you had a fun team. You had a fun team. You had a Galarian Weezing back then.
Oh,
I was bringing a Galarian Weezing as well to that tournament.
yeah, I was a
Um,
little inspired by you. That was a 2 a.m. lock in, and yeah, it worked for a little while, and then until it didn't.
oh, but you faced twice, so each of you won one. So you're technically tied up, right?
Ooh, I
So
can,
like
yeah.
that
You know
that, that
what?
kind of makes you a two-time event winner as well.
Well, hey, I'll look at it that way. That sounds good actually. I'm getting a nice confidence boost from that. To round out our top eight, we had gone in third place with another Clefable. I think there's a lot to this Clefable. I faced one in round one in Seattle. I think its ability to beat Dark type Pokemon as well as to have that Meteor Mash tech to beat other Fairy type Pokemon is actually very good. It's very flexible. I looked at it for my team as well, but decided to go more RPS, I guess. But Clefable's definitely very fun, and it's cool to see it finishing top eight. Another Fortress, this time from our Spice Lord Yusei Faro, finishing in fifth place overall. And then Steve, he finished seventh, but he did it with Toadscrew, Wigglytuff, and also Bastiodon, but a Fortress to boot. So he recovered a few aura points there with me.
I will say that I am a big fan of the Fortress call, even in the previous meta.
Yeah.
I guess this is also a Pokemon that like not only is very dear to your heart, but also is something that we may see much more often in the next season, just because we have that Sand Tomb buff now actually being a cheap attack that not only debuffs the opponent's defense, but also does 15 more damage from 25 damage to 40 buff this season. So while it's still not a hard hitting move, it is at least a move now. It's something that you can run without being ashamed when it's no shielded.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
fair.
like back then, I think both Yusei as well as Steve were running it with the Earthquake as a secondary attack. Now I believe we will be seeing a lot more Sand Tombing, even on the Volt Switch variant.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. Both of them running Volt Switch as well, and this was something that I should have considered for Seattle. I kept my mind was so locked on Bug Bite that I was like, I really need to play at least one Steel type Pokemon. Maybe I should run Fortress, but then I didn't consider the Volt Switch tech, which was quite good against Empoleon, right? So maybe these guys are onto something. But given that, all I really had access to was the grand finals footage. We recapped that really briefly. We talked a bit about teams. Was there anything else that you wanted to highlight about Auckland before we move on?
I think we could move on to Sydney maybe because we are already in Oceania, in Australia, New Zealand, and it takes a lot of time to move between places. So we should
True.
just stay there for the time being. And this is actually a very international field now that I look at the top 16 graphic.
Yeah.
In top 8, we had Yeteruna yet again, making it down from South Korea with a Pangoro and a Firo on her squad, finishing tied for seventh. Pokemon Maker, um, another APAC trainer from Japan, taking third place, and also Mr. Worldwide Nighttime Clasher in fourth place with the old reliable Corviknight Guzzlord core that I personally am very fond of. But yeah, once again, this event was won by Jonathan with the exact same team of six.
All right. ZZ, I have an honest question for you. This is not scripted. We're going to get a real reaction here. Yetaruna has Firo on her team. Have you also seen a suspicious amount of Firo in Go Battle League this season? I feel like I'm seeing it on every other team that I encounter. Be honest.
I have not, but
Ah,
I'm kind of wondering why, because pack users used to be all the rage back in fall, but then they fell off kind of. They had a fall off, if you will. And I don't know where they went. I guess the prevalence of electric types doesn't really help them. But yeah, I remember being on that Shadow 2 Cannon train fairly early. I remember Firo winning, I think, in Milwaukee. So yeah, where did the Packers go, Speedy?
well, this is how I know that you actually care about me as a friend is because you could have said, well, they're all in the sub rank 5 ELO, and that's why. So you could have said that. You easily could have gone there, but you chose not to.
I
So
could have said that, but like it depends on like when I shit talk a Pokemon, it will have to committed a war crime, and the Packers
true.
are all right. Like they did nothing wrong. They deserve justice. There's other Pokemon that don't. I would not have
Mm,
defended a Toedscruel, a Shadow Steelix,
ah, that's fair.
but
That's fair.
we are we are pro Pack in this house.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna get you a bumper sticker that says "I love peckers," and we'll have that you can
Yes,
drive
please.
around with
Yes, please.
in German. But we'll have like a
I,
picture of a Firo there, so nobody will get that
I
confused.
should have gotten that after our segment in Pittsburgh, arguably, but I'll get back to you.
Okay, maybe if I actually develop the stickers and you do another segment, then we'll give them out as
Oh,
participation
Jesus.
gifts. But okay, so funny Firo fallacies aside, let's go ahead and talk about the winning team. And my goodness, does it ever look familiar here, Zzweilous? We had Altaria, Shadow Annihilate, Empoleon, Licky Licky, Shadow Kenta Marowak, and Wigglytuff. And these two events, if I'm not mistaken, so Sydney was the 7th and 8th of February, and Auckland was the 25th of January. So these were what, basically back to back weekends, right?
They would have been 2 weeks apart, right? So
2
this is
weeks.
like as back to back as it gets typically.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, exactly. 2 weeks. So almost virtually back to back. Cool fact, Jumothy is actually the first trainer in Championship Series history to win two events with the exact same team. Nobody has ever done it until Jumothy has done it. And I was scrubbing through my notes yesterday trying to find another example of it. I looked at the Lyle Jeffs, I looked at the Dune Bugs, I looked at the Collins, I looked at all the multi winners. Nobody had done it except Jumothy, which is a huge accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
He just
This is also like something that I would not have guessed if you asked me like, oh, how many people have done that before? I would have said like two, maybe. But yeah, actually a world's first.
Yeah, so just to back up my claim here, in case we have any doubters that are listening, the closest comparison is actually Dune in 2024. He shared on his two winning teams Annihilate, Shadow Gligar, Lickitung, and Shadow Whiscash. But on his Knoxville team, he had Chargebug and Skarmory, and then on his Orlando team was the famous Shadow Pidgeot, Shadow Alolan Sandslash. But that's as close as it gets. Four shared picks, everybody else had three or less. So pretty close. Um, let's see. So we when we did our pre-show chat, I told you I had a weekly tough fact for you. Check this out. This win for Jumothy, right? After winning Auckland, he went to win Sydney. His win in Sydney marked the fifth tournament win this season for Wigglytuff. The others being Inadequates in Frankfurt, Doombug in Vegas, Maxie in Birmingham, and then Jumothy's two wins in Auckland and Sydney. Uh, Other Pokemon that had more tournament wins this season than Wigglytuff, Altaria has six, Shadow Marowak has six, Galarian Corsola has six as well, which feels like a relic from the past, but there was a period where Corsola was winning constantly. And then tied for five wins are Empoleon and Shadow Talonflame. And I'm pretty sure that all the Shadow Talonflame wins are in Europe. I'm pretty sure.
I would not be surprised for sure. I like Gallery in Kosovo was so big in like September and early October, but
Yeah.
not really been around much since. Even though we actually came fairly close to another Galarian Corsola winning, because runner-up They Love Jai did feature the Galarian Corsola on their team, um, as well as yet another Fortress and a obviously an Alolan Ninetales, a Shadow Alolan Ninetales, which is the They Love Jai signature pick.
I love that Jai ran Ice Fairy and Bug Steel. I mean, just two prime targets for a Talonflame, and luckily did not encounter one, as far as I know, in his run.
Very
Just
far
a
away
quick,
from Europe too, so they probably felt safe.
that's fair. Just a quick addendum here. I was incorrect, but we do have the majority of our Talonflame wins coming from Europe. That being Inadequates in Frankfurt, Hikami in Lille, and Inadequates again in Stuttgart. However, our two out of region Talonflame winners are gone, who actually won in Brisbane, and then Dunebug, who won in Vegas. So 3 out of 5 are European Firebirds. Um, okay, so I have one more note that I wanted to make here. Okay, one more note I wanted to make is about Poke Moneymaker. Poke Moneymaker from Japan. As you pointed out, this feels like a more international competition. You had a runner from Korea. We had a Poke Moneymaker from Japan, Nighttime Clasher from the US. Poke Moneymaker finished third overall. This is the fourth Oceania event in 2 years that Poke Moneymaker has finished within the top three, which is crazy. Four events, 2 years, top three every single time. Finishing third in Perth in 2025, first in Melbourne 2025, second in Brisbane 2026, and third in Sydney 2026. So Poke Moneymaker has won one, but it's come close several times.
This is quite the impressive statistic, and like it kind of plays into a question that obviously it's very difficult to compare between years and seasons and just like general levels of dominance. But with the Geometry back-to-back win, what I was immediately reminded of was the era of Jakobovich dominance in Oceania, because obviously it's like a little bit of a smaller field, a little bit of less opportunity to compete as well. So it feels like a prime region for like very defined top contenders to emerge. And Jonathan like kind of coming out of nowhere into that top spot, third in Brisbane, then two top one finishes. But it would be like kind of fun if we could claim that the top Australian competitor was actually a Japanese battler that was just flying in every time. And I feel like Pokemon Maker's resume is actually fairly close to that. So
Mhm.
yeah, a very very talented trainer, and yeah, just like looking at the record, there's just so much winning. Just I'm looking at matches
Yeah.
won and games won as well. It's like
Oh
oh,
yeah.
8 matches won, 18 games won. Those are deep runs, and yeah, it's the only time there weren't at least 7 matches won by Pokemon Maker was not in Australia, but at Worlds, which had 4 matches won, which is still a sizable amount.
Yeah, especially at Worlds. I mean that those matches go a long way because you're battling against the best of the best. That goes without saying. But yeah, that'd be really funny if the best player in OC was actually a Japanese player who kept flying in. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if Pokemon Maker wins the next one in Australia. And I'm sure the Australians also kind of unite against the other trainers from out of region, right? They're like, oh, we have to stop Yadaruna from winning, or we have to prevent Pokemon Maker from taking another title. So then you
They've
get
been
kind of
pretty
a
resilient. Like they don't have the same numbers that North Americans or Europeans have, and they have quite a fair few intruders. But they've been holding strong for the most part. I feel like I don't know, do we have like one instance of somebody from out of region taking it? But overall, like Australia is not free.
yeah,
Unlike
absolutely.
we will get into that. We will get into that.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little shaken there by what you were suggesting. All right, let's do a quick grand finals recap. This VOD is available on PvP Steve's channel, so if you do listen to the podcast and you're not following Steve, you better pause right now, go follow him, and come right back. Excellent content creator, beloved by all in the community. So, grand finals, I'll just run through real quick. Jumthy was able to win battle number 1 versus They Love Jai, but then Jai struck back, winning 3 in a row to force the grand finals reset. And that's also including a game 3 where Jai led their Galarian Corsola into Wigglytuff and still managed to win that game somehow. In the grand finals reset, though, Jumothy made some adjustments. Um, I messaged Steve about this and I was like, man, the first grand finals set was so dynamic. But then in the grand finals reset, Jumothy just locked in. He found a new gear and he was winning all the leads and he was winning all the matchups. I mean, just to give you an idea, game 1 of the grand finals reset, Jumothy leads Wigglytuff into Galarian Corsola, does not let history repeat itself, wins that battle. Game number 2, he leads his Wigglytuff into Gastrodon, which is generally pretty neutral. But after the safe swap comes out, Jumothy just absolutely punishes the Galarian Moltres. Game 3, Jumothy leads his Empoleon into Shadow Alolan Ninetales, and that is a really disastrous spot to be in. And then I think we saw the Galarian Moltres come out, and then the Wigglytuff aligned against that. So it was real rough for They Love Jai in the grand finals reset, but a valiant effort nonetheless. And I do respect the commitment to the Shadow Alolan Ninetales. It's a sick pick.
Yeah, especially like it's a Pokemon that has always been on the brink of viability, kind of. Then we had the proof of concept when Inadequans won a tournament with it, and honestly, it's been treated well by Niantic Scope, the Pokemon Go as of recent, because it did receive the Powder Snow buff, the Weather Ball buff, and the addition of Chilling Water to its moveset. So really a lot more potent than it used to be just a couple of months ago.
What I find really ironic is that not only and I'm so happy you mentioned this. I almost forgot. Not only did They Love Jai run Dazzling Gleam Weather Ball, but I believe that's also the set that Pocket ran at Seattle. So it
It
feels like
is.
people are just kind of leaving the chilling water behind.
Like I don't know. Maybe it has to do with getting walled off by other water types. Maybe that is a consideration where you have so many Azumarill in this meta. You maybe see the odd Lapras like Rise one with in Merida, where like even though that is still a bad matchup for the Ninetales to be in, at least you can do something with say a shield advantage. So I can see the argument for why you would not commit to a moveset that is entirely walled off by one of the most powerful types in the game.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you can find coverage in other places as well, it really helps. I mean, you're probably looking to check Talonflame as the number 1 fire type Pokemon. You know, something that's weak to water that can't be beaten by ice, right? Because if you look at something like Marowak, you can beat Marowak with ice. It's still weak to that. you'd rather just run the weather ball. But if you have on your team like Jai does, if you have Power Gem, Glaring Corsola, Rock Tomb Fortress, Water Pulse, Gastrodon, Rollout, Licky Licky, and then a neutral matchup in the Glaring Moltres, maybe you don't need the Chilling Water. So that actually makes a lot of sense. But yeah, check out the VOD if you would like to watch those battles. Those are really fun. Jumothy, again, finding a new gear in the grand finals reset. He's like, no, I'm locking down 2 tournaments this season, and They Love Jai is not going to stop me. And he succeeded.
Yeah, it's a very impressive accomplishment. So big shout outs to the Oceanian region and to Jomothy in particular. Um, okay, I think we can move on to our very last tournament ahead of Seattle and ahead of the Here and Now, which was, I believe, the Santiago. Was it a regional? Was it a special event? It is original on this Jacobus graphic, so I will call it
Yeah.
original. They are
Yeah.
equivalent in function regardless. So this one was won by an Argentinian battler, but it was not
Mm.
Martugalde. It was Andy Kobe. And Andy Kobe is an Argentinian battler that I think I know from Gym Breakers. So certainly
Yes.
somebody who has a big presence within the grassroots community and somebody who is no stranger to playing the best of the best and taking on a bunch of Chileans on his way to the crown here. He's the only non-Chilean battler in the top eight, with that top eight also featuring household names such as Memi, who perennial third place finisher, this time second place finisher. He's getting there. He will claim his title eventually. Decupy is a name that we've seen before. Emilio is certainly one of the more recognizable names. Ice Chris, Distinct, Elche, and not as much of a household name, but the Carlist 28 also made it all the way to fifth place. So yeah, very very strong Chilean showing, but the title does go to Argentina.
It does. A bit of an Argentinian invasion there during this Santiago regional. Before we jump to the overall team outlook, I just wanted to give a special shout out. I feel like every time he's at a tournament, we have to talk about him. Desynced, right? Desynced with Altaria, Shadow for Alligator, as well as Florges with Disarming Voice, Chilling Water, a Lurantis, which I had not seen since, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but he was a trainer that played Lurantis as well.
Chun, Chun.
Shun, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I
Shun
think
was
a Dutch battler who brought it to at least Utrecht, but potentially also a couple of other events like Bochum back in the day. Yeah, like
yeah.
big on the Lurantis and also big on the Didene early on before that thing got buffed and nerfed
Yeah.
and went in and out of the meta. But yeah, Lurantis is a very interesting Pokemon because it is a fragile, pure grass type with
Mhm.
so many interesting moveset options in that it looks like a bug. It can do bug stuff by doing Fury Cutter, and it does have access to Exeter, but typically you do run it with a Leaf Blade, which is one of
Yeah.
the most efficient attacks. 35 energy, 70 damage, fantastic move, as well as super powerful coverage to really give it a good shot against those steel types like the Empoleon, for example.
Yeah, and also running leafage. I mean, this might be one of the only leafage users in Top Cut that we've seen maybe ever,
That is
right?
true. That is true. That is the move that I forgot, even though I wanted to mention it initially. But yeah, Leafage, I believe that's one of the many, many Shadow Claw clones we have these days.
Mm,
So it is an attack that pairs energy generation with fast move damage. And it is also the move that Desync opted for in this tournament. So whereas you would have struggles taking down for example, like an Azumarill, which has the fairy type resisting Fury Cutter damage, you would have to take that down on charge attacks alone. You are able to get a little bit of farm, do a little bit of fast attack damage with that leafage.
yeah. When I saw that, I almost felt like I needed to shake my walker and say, "Back in my day, Lurantis ran Fury Cutter." You know, that's what we expected to
Uh,
see. But leafage is such a cool tech. Also, to round out the team, Alolan Sandslash, a Pokemon that I've considered at multiple points. But I think the ground weakness is just a little bit too much to overcome. I guess a Desync found a way around that, at least for the time being. And then the trusty Saple maple syrup pancake. Definitely a mouthful, even for an English speaker like myself. But yeah, very fun team.
Yeah.
Desync always deserves a shout out.
Like staple syrup. I guess like in Stunfisk is common enough to call it a staple.
Yeah,
But
yeah, the trusty staple maple syrup stunfisk, something like that. Um, but yeah, I wanted to point out one thing about this. We don't have footage of this. I'm not sure if you were able to find anything. I was not. I scoured the internet to look for footage of this. Don't think it's available. Something I wanted to mention is that this is also an instance of a Florges takeover. So within the top 10 teams, we had six, including first through fifth place overall. 20 Florges total in the tournament, 13 of the 20 running Trailblaze Chilling Water, six of them running Disarming Voice and Chilling Water, and then one was actually running Moonblast and Chilling Water. So again, kind of a mix, maybe 2-to-1 mix, almost exactly of Trailblaze to Disarming Voice. But yeah, again, I think you made a really good point earlier. You said it depends on the team composition. If you already have Trailblaze Scizor, if you already have Trailblaze Furret, if you already have Cradilly, if you already have grass coverage somewhere on your team, maybe you don't need that. Maybe you need to actually be able to handle Altaria a bit more seriously, for example.
especially because many of the grasses are not that great into Altaria. So yeah, that is certainly a consideration that many trainers will have when constructing their teams. And one thing that I was wondering is whether we want to also get into the little bit of drama. It's not like really terrible drama, but there was a little bit of chatter on the socials going around this regional because we are very grateful to the services of our Dracovis team, where the volunteers are coming up with these really neat graphics that
Mm,
showcase all the teams by all the players. But the day one graphic supposedly had inaccurate information, which was supposedly inaccurately reported. So it was a matchup where I believe an Altaria was assumed, then a Galarian Moltres appeared, and all
hmm.
of a sudden that matchup looked a little more difficult than it may have looked in scrims. But
Yeah.
even though this is like a little like, is this like touching on bad sportsmanship, or is it just like voluntary to reveal your teams? Because there's like no, like, you have no obligation to reveal your teams. Um,
So
I will say it was probably not tournament deciding.
So that's the thing, right? You don't have an obligation to reveal the team, but then you could just not submit a team, period, right? If that's
That
the
is a very fair
case.
point. That is a
So
very
it's
fair
like
point.
it's like not submitting a team versus misleading somebody on your team. And yeah, I'm aware of what you're talking about. And to give everyone a little more context, right? We don't have footage of this. There was no stream for this tournament. So when you went into this venue in Santiago, you were just sitting across the table from your opponent and doing your battles. You weren't watching other people's battles. You weren't able to, unless it came up in discussion, you weren't able to figure out what they were running. So there's a bit more secrecy surrounding this one. But yeah, I think the deliberate misrepresentation of your team in order to try to get a better day two matchup with two very notable players. I won't dox them by name on the broadcast here, but I do know who they were and I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you think we operate in a high trust community, but sometimes people are willing to do things just to get an edge. And yeah, frankly, I've heard excuses too, and I don't really buy the excuse because I don't think it was a mistake on Dracovich's part.
Yeah, I will say that I do know the people involved as well, but I haven't actually reached out to the players accused, so I will not
Yeah.
dox them because I feel like that would just be bad practice. But overall, I would just encourage everybody in the community to trade others the same way you want to be treated, because you would probably also not think it's the best move to be misled by your opponent like that.
Yeah.
Especially like if you obfuscate the Pokemon on your team that is the best into your opponent's team, that Pokemon will still be good if they know what's coming.
Sure.
So it was, again, I feel as if it's so insignificant that you could have just been honest about it.
Yeah, I agree. Such a weird thing, right? Like I don't this never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind to lie about my team. If I ever made top cut and was going into day number 2 and I think I could get a small advantage, it never crossed my mind to do that. So it's funny what people think up. But all that said and done, I think that your point still stands. This wasn't a tournament deciding outcome, but it definitely was disruptive. So hopefully that doesn't happen again because I don't think the upside is worth the potential downside of everyone looking at you and thinking that you're a turd for doing that. So but yeah, we don't have a whole lot to go off of for this one. Like we alluded to, Andy Kobe and Memi in the grand finals. Similar teams sharing the Altaria, although the Shadow variant was on Andy's side, sharing Empoleon, sharing Florges, sharing Shadow Kenta Marowak, and sharing the Licky Licky. The only differences being Malamar for Andy Kobe versus the Glaring Corsa for Memi. So I do think the Malamar has a little bit of an edge there, obviously, in this matchup. And there are some subscribers to the Church of Malamar. I believe that Dunebug is one of them. He worships there as well. So maybe Malamar is something. But one more point I wanted to make, excuse me, I know I'm going a little long. One more point I wanted to make is that this is by far Andy Kobe's best performance. If you look back, 25th at LAIC this year, last season finished 49th at Santiago, 97th at LAIC, 17th at Buenos Aires, and then in 2024 finished 33rd overall in Santiago. So this is like miles from where Andy Kobe has been, and I think that he should feel really proud. Very well done.
100%. But also, I will say that his most recent performance at LAIC was already trending into that direction. Again, I really like the matches won because that puts into perspective how long the road of the trainer was to get where they eventually ended up. So even though his best placement before that was the 2025 Buenos Aires 17th place, that was only two matches won, whereas the LAIC 25th place leading up to Santiago was six matches won, which is
You're right.
essentially synonymous with a deep run already. So yeah, really, really coming into this on form and locking in for the day of the event.
Yeah, and to your point, I looked at the LAIC matchup a little bit closer. He actually lost to Colin, and he pushed Colin to game three, which I think says a lot, definitely about
Yeah,
himself as a player. So you're right. Andy has been trending upwards, and this is just a result of great performance. So that being said, unless you have any closing thoughts, I think that might conclude our roundup.
oh yeah, I feel like we are almost done with the Tales of Transformation season. If only there was not a tournament in which you competed in, Speedy.
Yes, of course. Let us move forward to Seattle and essentially kind of the bookend for this entire meta, which is funny because it happened from the 28th of February to the 1st of March, so it really straddled this the season update in a sense. But luckily, we were on the legacy PvP system. Thank all that's holy, and we were also playing in the previous meta, so I didn't have to learn a brand new meta. But yeah, let's talk about Seattle. This is a very fun event. ZZ, I don't know what's going on with NA events, but our attendance is exploding. I mean, we had over 220 players show up for Seattle. Just crazy.
Especially because I think I saw a graphic on Twitter about the events in the Pacific Northwest specifically, which haven't actually been that well attended in the past at all. And then Seattle just shooting through the roof, really, and obviously attracting players from in region. But I also believe that the Indian top competitor, Master Me here, did make his way to Seattle to test the North American waters. And I always do enjoy when there's players just traveling the world for these because obviously it's something that I've also been doing a lot in the past. And yeah, I just really like to see those familiar faces in unfamiliar places.
I agree, and very well said too. No, it was fun to see Master Mahir. I bumped into him momentarily before conversations pulled us apart. Bumped into the Tarian as well. Ashton Ash, I was able to hang out with him quite a bit. Very smart Ashton Ash. I mean, very intelligent guy. I always thought he was shy and not very talkative, but once you get him going, he's a chatterbox. I'll tell you that. Abhinav also attending, placing within top 16. Absol Train Best, which I see on the Dracoviz graphic, has a dual, it looks like Japan and US flag, which is cool. But Absol Train Best actually doing very well this tournament. I think their best overall performance. And then Final Boss AJ crossing the border from Canada to come down and battle in Seattle. But yeah, I think the Seattle event was cool too because there's a lot of nostalgia surrounding the 30th anniversary and the 10th anniversary of Pokemon Go. And I saw a lot of Pokemon employees attending this one, and there were tons and tons of players who I think maybe wouldn't come out to an event normally, but because this is such a big year for Pokemon, they're like, oh, there's a regional nearby. I'll attend this weekend. I'll hang out. Also, very nice venue. Essentially, the way that it worked out was that we had one enormous hall where most of your TCG players were. You had your younger TCG divisions, and
Mhm.
then several other tables for the Masters. And then there was like this hallway that connected to another part of the venue. So it's almost like a dumbbell shape, right? Big hall, small connector alley, and then another
Mhm.
big hall. And in the second hall, we had the stream setup where you had all three of the broadcasts. You had a concessions lounge and even more TCG tables towards the back. And then the seating for the actual stream matches was actually pretty small. I'd say maybe 6 or 8 rows of chairs going back. So it was kind of a more intimate viewing experience. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sit here, but TCG folks and VG folks are constantly walking behind me. It was a bit more open. So a very nice venue, Seattle was. And I really hope that we go back. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I appreciate the visualizer because I had a bunch of friends going and they were also like leaving raving reviews about the venue. And I was like, what can be so fantastical about this venue that it deserves so much praise? But I think like you did shine a light on that a little bit. And again, Seattle, not unlike Merida, is one of those places where I was like, okay, I would want to go there. It doesn't work out this year, but TPCI, please keep that on the schedule because I like to take a second look eventually.
No, definitely. I'd love for us to go back, and I feel like that event, and then Toronto was really well attended this year as well. So hopefully we get at least one on each side of the northern coast of the U.S. and Canada, respectively. Hopefully we do get that next year. But yeah, as you alluded to, I did compete at this one. I tried to take scrims seriously the week leading up to it. I was really on the fence, to be honest with you. I was really on the fence about going up until about a week prior, and then I just went ahead and bought my plane tickets and hotels. So I probably paid a little bit more than I should have if I would have been preemptive and ordered them earlier. But no regrets at all. I was able to go and attend the tournament. I had a great time hanging out with friends, and then I spent 3 days with family afterwards. So I was able to kind of dual purpose my trip before coming back. To home base, so to speak. So really fun. Some people said my team was a little bit polarizing, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty fun. Although I will say that it was very much live by the Steelix, die by the Steelix, and my experiences off stream at the tables were defined by Steelix getting into bad matchups.
So more die by the Steelix is what you would say.
Yeah,
You did have like you did get points from this, right? Like
I
this
did.
was
Yeah,
actually like it was not easy to get points from that event because I believe it was very large, but it wasn't so large that you would hit the 257 kicker. So
mm,
actually like pretty selective about who actually gets to take away championship points, but you did make
yeah.
it far enough.
Yeah, so my first round, I believe, forgive me if I'm butchering the name, it was against Party Hat Pika, and they had a Clefable, and I led my Altaria into Clefable. ZZ, I led my Altaria into Clefable
Hmm.
3 games in a row, and I was able to win the series somehow. So
All
that
right.
was a
So
miracle.
this is essentially you saying that you're not merely an alignment merchant, but you can also win from a lost lead.
Yeah, that was I call it a miracle, but yeah, I think I made a couple of good plays and I was able to take that series, which was very competitive to be honest. The next series was against Spandalicio, and I feel so bad because I RPS the life out of Spandalicio, and I wish the matches were more competitive, but it was like Licky Licky into Corsola, Steelix into his flyer. It was really rough for him.
Okay,
So
not beating the alignment merchant allegations anymore.
hey, no, no, we're tied up. We're tied up at this point. Bad lead, one series, and then series number two, I won based on purely alignment. So, round three, I took on Zimmy Kid on stream. First of all, absolutely adore Zimmy Kid. He's been committed to the Surfetch gaming ever since I can remember. Very fun person, very fun battler, and we had a good series. I feel like on stream. Famously, my game number two, where I was convinced we were going to game three. I don't know if you watched it, Zzweilous, but when that Guzzlord came out with the sludge bomb, I thought it was all Jover.
Yeah, like I just know that people were really like hoping that you would eventually throw your Swift. But Yeah, you made it exciting. That's quality to have.
Yeah, entertainment value, right? Entertainment above all. But no, I had a Swift loaded. I ended up throwing an Icy Wind into Scizor. I really had the Guzzlord stop on my mind, and I was like, man, if he sends out the Guzzlord now a little bit early, then I don't want it to catch a Swift and somehow put me behind. So my brain got a little bit discombobulated. I threw an Icy Wind to Scizor, and I heard plenty of notes about that from yours truly. But then I was able to land a Swift into the opposing
Uh,
Guzzlord and win that battle. But it was really close. He connected Sludge. I even let a Dragon Tail through, and I was like, man, I screwed this all up. But I survived on 1 HP. Rank seven, Bo Wigglytuff for the win.
oh, these matter. I have
Yes.
so I don't know. Have I ever brought a Wigglytuff to a real tournament? I don't know. I did once reach rank one in GBL with a Wigglytuff, so I'm guilty as charged. But I did
Mm.
catch a PvPIV extra extra small Wigglytuff at Honolulu Worlds in Hawaii. So eventually, maybe the time will come where I bring the small Wiggler, and
Tiny but mighty. Yeah, that's what
it
we call it.
is.
Um, but yeah, we keep alluding to the RPS merchant allegations. I'll let everybody who's listening be the judge. I'll run through the team real quickly here. Shadow Altaria, Shadow Steelix, Licky Licky. It's a great safe swap, right? Gastrodon, Jellicent, another excellent safe switch, as well as Wigglytuff. All right, so I do think there are some hard matchups, but I had a little flexibility. But I'll be honest with you, ZZ. I'll be serious for a moment here. Only in team building for this meta did I realize how few actual safe swaps there are. And I'm kind of glad that it's over because I'm ready for a more flexible meta. But it was Licky Licky and it was Corbinite, and if you didn't have those two, you didn't have a safe swap. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I think that is like obviously it sometimes depends on the exact team comp that you face. And against some people, like Gazlord is safe. If they have a fairy, it is not safe. But like if the fairy is a Azumarill, it's kind of safe again. It's complicated. But yeah, like a classic safe swap, a Pokemon that is really only countered by very very particular teams that you may not encounter that often. I feel like Corviknight and Vicky are probably the two big ones, and beyond that, you just have to hope that you get an energy advantage somewhere and still play a way out of it. Honestly, like something like Altaria is still sufficiently safe as long as all the floaches are on Trailblaze Chilling Water.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not as if everything is just like, oh, you can run every Pokemon into every Pokemon and whoever plays better wins. There will always be an element of RPS to the game. That's just the game that we play.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I definitely felt like if I safe swapped Wigglytuff, I'd get hit with a Scizor. If I safe swapped Jellicent,
Oh
Glen
yeah,
Moltres would come out. Like it'd be tough, right? In those situations. And then so I was able to win on stream, but then I went to the tables and I took on my next opponent, which was the Tarian. And game one, I had that. I don't know if you heard about this rumor, but I had the iOS bug where it kept on popping up with the menu over and over, something to do with the settings. But I had that in game one, and to be fair to Tarian, that game one was unwinnable. He had me on hard alignment, so I wasn't likely to win that battle. But I was definitely tilted afterwards. I was definitely
yeah,
frustrated. Going into game number two, I think he had, if I remember right, I think he had both Cradilly and Trailblaze Florges on his team, which when you consider my team, that's like a death sentence, right? I was just not prepared for double grass coverage. So he kept his Florges in the back and he beat me in game two. My next battle was against Shadow Mimikyu. We actually pushed to game three, and game three was I was feeling pretty good about it until I led Steelix into Stunfisk, and I made the swap and I tried to wiggle my way out of it. Not with Wigglytuff, but Licky Licky. And I tried to safe swap my way out of it, but he's just too good, and he didn't let me go. So that was a 1-2 to Shadow Mimikyu. So definitely some room for improvement. And I don't know. I'm kind of getting more of the itch to compete. So we'll see what happens.
yeah. I would. So this is already like kind of getting ahead of myself, but I would encourage you to eventually consider a trip to Europe and compete on in one of our regionals because we don't have that big attendance that you guys have, and we need to drive up the numbers. And I know that for the Prague regional at the end of April, there is going to be a prominent like a couple prominent North Americans that will be making their way over. So I don't know. Let's see how free Europe is. It is certainly a little more free than North America if you just consider food and hotel prices. So maybe there are some savings to be made there that can justify a flight across the pond.
Well,
But yeah,
if
just
the
something to think about.
I think you're right. I would really love to see some of the locations in Europe, in particular. I think there was one in Poland. What were you heaping praise on Gdansk? You said that was
Oh
really
yeah,
nice.
oh yeah. Gdansk was
Okay,
certainly high at the top of my favorite places, my favorite regional cities.
okay.
Um, Also very affordable too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd love to go. But I'll tell you what, though, Easy. If the rumors I'm hearing about Prague are true, and the trainers that I think will attend are actually going, oh my goodness, Prague is going to be a war zone. I hope the Europeans buckle their seatbelts and strap in because it's going to be really really intense.
yeah. I haven't counted the championship gold medals that would be coming over, but I think it's double digits at least. So
Yes,
we have to brace ourselves. The impact is coming,
yeah,
but yeah,
it's
we
going to
have a
be
couple
insane.
talented Europeans, right? Like it's not as if we are entirely helpless, right?
No,
So
far from it. Far from it, I would say. But yeah. So enough about my story. I just want to say I had a really fun time. It was great to compete. Great to hang out with all the players as well. I know that when I'm commentating, I'm primarily backstage and I'm always doing something. So it was good to have a bit more free time. And then Sunday, I got to come to the venue and just enjoy the games. And I thought our casting team was absolutely incredible, absolutely talented. I knew that Rise and Henry would be very good together and they met all my expectations and more. And then, of course, we had Butters and Softov. So honestly, a very elite team. And I would say 3 out of the 4, excluding old man Butters, right? 3 out of the 4, I really think of them as like the next wave of NA casters, and I fully expect them to carry the torch forward and improve on what's been done before. So very, very excited for that.
yeah, I do remember just seeing the casters lineup and being immediately excited, partially because I just have a very high opinion of all of those casters, and partially also because we haven't heard as much of all of them as we have of others. So always exciting, especially with people like Rise, who really also had a progression in their casting and um, really like improving from event to event. Again, made for a very, very good show.
Exactly.
So yeah, I feel as if the overall viewing experience in Seattle was only really hindered by the issues at the tables where it held up the tournament on that Saturday for hours even. I feel as
Yeah,
if like the latest groups like there wasn't even time to get the winners finals on stream anymore, so
correct.
really had to make some magic happen in between to keep the content going and pulled from early rounds of middling groups just because the like there was no other way of getting the matches done just because of
Yeah.
the bug that you reported on as well, which was just too prevalent, I believe. And yeah, I guess that comes with maybe maybe just having to iron out the kinks of a new venue, right? Sometimes there's very specific problems that you may know better about the next time.
I
Um,
So to that point, this is one instance where I want to be just a bit more specific because I feel like sometimes it is the venue and it is the metal roof that's like screwing up the GPS coordinates, or it's the internet that the venue told Pokemon that it had, but it actually didn't. Those things have happened in the past over the years, and sometimes it's Niantic, right? And the game is just bugged
oh.
because there's like a big issue. I mean, who would have thought that could happen? But sometimes it's all those things. But this time, it was on Apple. It was 100%
Oh,
on Apple. Yes, it was something about settings and account logins that kept on like popping up. It popped up the very first time I was at the tables. Whenever I was battling Shadow Mimikyu, he actually made a point to wait until I was ready to lock in, and then he would decline the message and then go into the battle because he thought that gave the widest kind of gap between
oh.
pop-ups that he could actually compete. And I think he was right. So that's what we were dealing with. And it wasn't Pokemon, it wasn't Niantic, it wasn't the venue. It was freaking Tim Apple. All right?
Yeah,
Tim Cook.
Jesus. Don't let him cook. Don't let him cook.
No, who let
Um,
this man cook?
uh,
Liquid glass was a mistake. Roll it back.
oh man.
But anyway, so yeah, a few notable performances here that I wanted to shout out to. Zimmy Kid, after I beat him in round 3, he actually made top cut, so I'm really proud of him. He was actually standing behind Mimikyu and I, because if I beat Mimikyu, I would have rematched against him, and he was ready. He was ready for the rematch. So Zimmy, DG's man, he probably would have got me in our second go around. Sustenance Eater, top cutting. Mormon Matt also having a great performance. Ashton Nash, top cutting. Cheese Curl. I'm sure that we'll have a lot to say about Cheese Curl, but what an impressive series from him. I think he went up against a really talented player and did very well. And then final boss AJ. I mean, gotta love her. She's such a star and such a hero. I swear to you, ZZ, half of the crowd, if not more, was cheering for AJ. So
I can see why. I also did look back at AJ's tournament record because this top 8 is her best performance ever. I believe she had the, like, overall, probably the spiciest team in Top Cut with 2 signature
yes.
picks. There's like people with 1 signature pick, but we have both the Shadow Walrein, which really was the star of the show, as well
Yep.
as the Energy Ball Shadow Kanto Ninetales, which did actually hit the field a couple of times. I was like, this
Yeah.
looks like a mascot to me, but it actually did something. And yeah, I was really glad to see Walrein do well, not only on AJ's team but also on Absol Train Best's team, because Walrein was one of my big meta calls if I had competed that weekend.
No
And yeah,
way.
with AJ,
Really?
it's yeah, I was like so big on the Walrein train. Um, was Walrein,
Wow.
World Switch Fortress, and Galarian Moltres. Those were the 3 Pokemon that I would have brought to a tournament had I competed. But I didn't compete at all in that meta in Open Great League. So who am I to say
Hmm.
what's good and what isn't? But yeah, Final Boss AJ, so true to her brand, to her core identity as the Queen of Ice, actually bringing an Ice type to every single regional she competed in. And this one, like the Walrein, was actually the star of the show. So that was very fun to watch, very enjoyable to follow along. And I guess like before we head into the medalists, I do want to give a big shout out to Cheese Girl, who is another
Hmm.
teammate of mine. And Cheese Girl is probably the person in the competitive circuit that I've met with the best attitude about it, because he has like out of his last 10 tournaments before Seattle, I think he missed points by 1 game 9
Oh.
of the 10 times. And he never did that experience, like that never got him down. He always just kept on having a good time and just enjoying the tournament experience for what it is, and just playing the battles again, practicing again for the next time. And I personally have seen him battle a lot because obviously Battle Frontier, the battles he shares, I know the quality of player that he is, and it just felt like a curse. It felt so unlucky for so long, and him having that breakthrough tournament, just really executing so well against such tough opponents, and not only getting points but getting a top 8, getting that top 8 playmat, finishing within like even the money. It just really made me so happy because there's honestly nobody who deserves it as much.
Cheese Curls run 2-1 versus HDMV, who I think is one of the most technically talented trainers that's new to the scene that I've witnessed in quite a while. He beat Stud Muffins 2-1. He beat Jocko Loco 2-1, a trainer that's won a championship series event before, and he beat Abinov 2-0 as well. So I think it was the Abinov games. I think that those were the ones on stage where Cheese Curl made some insane catches, some really good plays, and the crowd was losing it. And then when he came off stage, he was greeted by just a group of friends all giving him hugs because
I
you're
think
right, it
the
can feel like a curse,
I, th-
but
I think
okay,
the Abhinav games were actually at the table still because he was a late group, and I
really?
believe that was the winners finals maybe.
Oh, you could be right.
So I believe that was streamed at the tables because we did have a little like a little video stream in our Discord going just from what the table screens were showing. Um, but there was some excellent gameplay in day two. I believe he did take on Elite. Was it the Elite battle? There was
Oh,
certainly
I'm
something
actually.
going on.
I always check the YouTube comments to see if somebody has provided timestamps, but I don't see timestamps for. Uh, oh, it's he battled Dunebug. I think maybe that's the one he lost.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
losers round three in day two. Losers round two, he did actually beat Elite 2-0,
that's
which
big.
again, like a multi-time regional champion. So uh, a very, very tough bracket, but pushing all the way through top eight. And he actually has beaten Dune before in a different
Mhm.
tournament. I don't recall which of it was, but yeah, Chisco is certainly somebody who on his day can go toe to toe with the best in the game, and yeah, taking it all the
If
way. Only falling to Dune, who is probably just like
yeah.
top five all time NA players easily. So
Oh yeah, he's on the Mount Rushmore of NA Pokemon Go PvP for sure. If you want to see Cheese Curls win over Elite, the timestamp is roughly 3 hours 16 minutes into day number 2 on the VOD. So definitely a moment worth revisiting. But yeah, so many incredible performances. The first question, and I'm so glad you mentioned this. The first question that I asked AJ when I saw her at the 8:45 a.m. call time on Saturday was, "How many ice types?" I can't even get that. How many ice types are on your team? And she said just one. So turns out one was
but a
enough.
good one. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was practicing with non-shadow, like with the regular Walrein a lot. But honestly, the shadow, just the energy. Like I remember multiple times where AJ committed to two shielding through a Togekiss, I believe. And just the energy was so threatening that she got a shield from a Jellicent with an icicle spear bait because
That's
Earthquake
right.
is just so devastating. And yeah, I
Yeah.
believe with the regular Warrain that would have just been an easy no shield. But yeah, the Shadow actually being a big threat.
Yeah, I think that was against existing monkey. I think that was the series losers round 2, which is super impressive from AJ. Um, but yeah, really fun to spend time with the community. I guess we can talk about the medalists and a bit in our grand finals here. So third place overall, we had Dunebug 97, who actually had a pretty good losers bracket run, if I'm not mistaken. I think Dunebug.
Yeah,
Here,
he's no
actually.
stranger to those. He
Yeah,
did
right.
come
Ever
into day
since
two on the loser side.
Yeah, ever since what was it, San Antonio, you can never count him out. So he beat Boomer Brell, he beat Overlord Raikou and the C2U in order to make it to day number 2. And then once he reached day number 2, he beat Sustenance Eater, Ash and Ash, Cheese Curl, Absoltrine Best, Gerald, and he finally fell to Pocket in the losers finals. So very deep run from the Duninator, I guess I could say.
The Doomeister, for
The
sure.
Dunemeister.
Yeah, it was like very much a signature Dunebug run. And with that Malamar, which is one of the Psywavers of all time, and certainly the
It
one
is.
that Dune subscribes to. And it did have to, or like, not have to, because have to implies that it didn't want to do that, but it got to face off against the other Psywaver in top four in
Yep.
Grumpig, Gerald's signature pick, which was also very much a star of that weekend.
Yeah.
In some matchups, just really not caring about switch advantage at all, just getting all that Psywave energy and then having the widely unresisted dynamic punch Shadow Ball coverage. Shadow Ball also, like, it is a move that has been on so many Pokemon for so long that all the buffs from the Shadow Ball energy reduction haven't even revealed themselves really. And now we get to find out what Pokemon are all benefiting. And Grumpig certainly is one of them because it was a frequent mainstay on X Gerald's lines of three. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
pushing him all the way to fourth place in such a stacked field.
Yeah. The Grunt is so cool because you get fighting and ghost type damage, but you don't take super effective fairy type damage in return. So it's kind of like running something like an Annihilate, except you don't have to worry about that weakness. You're still a bit weak to Ghost, right, and Dark as well, but I think there are ways around it. But yeah, Dune is a multi-season patron to the to the Church of Shadow Malamar, and he brought it yet again. And when I saw those two match up, I was like, man, if Gerald could pull this off, it'll be really sick. but I have my doubts because it's just a tough comp. And if you look at Doombug's team as well, he's kind of almost triple weak to Wigglytuff in Jellicent, Shadow Altaria, and Shadow Malamar. Although I know Malamar has some win conditions. I think it wins the zeros and some other things like that. But still, looks like there's a bit of a hole there. That's why he brought the double steals, right? Corviknight and Empoleon.
I think with Jellicent, you will overall feel a little more confident into Wigglytuff teams than with ghosts like Galarian and Corsola,
Fair.
because not only do you wall off not only the Swifts but the Icy Winds too, but you also have a way of fairly efficiently outpacing it and hitting it with the decent damage that is Surf. So, like, it's obviously still a losing matchup, but it's a way softer losing matchup with the Jellicent than with some of the other ghosts that we see in the meta.
That's very fair. Well, let's turn to our grand finals as we hit the 1 hour 30 minute mark and try to blaze through this. We've got
Mhm.
StoneCollection taking on Ashton Ash in order to advance out of round one. He then beats Firestar 2-1. He sends Pocket down to that loser side bracket, but that just sets the stage for a rematch. And our grand finals is Pocket from the loser side and StoneCollection from the winner's side. Pocket with a quick reset 3-0 versus StoneCollection. Be honest with me, ZZ. Did you think it was all over once Pocket got the 3-0?
Not necessarily. Um, I just was wondering when StoneCollection would lean into the Corviknight a little more. Like, I'm a bit of a Corviknight truther. I've been known to rely on that Steely Bird a lot. And I believe that against Pocket's team, there's just so much upside to it because the only real answer there is probably the Galarian Moltres double resisting the sand attacks and not being able to hit for neutral with the hard hitting payback. So that is even on the a double flying charge attack moveset, the Moltres
Mm.
takes that matchup comfortably. But everything else on Pocket's team is not super comfortable against Corviknight. There's obviously win conditions for a lot of Pokemon, but against stuff like the Empoleon taking super effective from Sand Attack, the Shadow Kanto Marowak doing resisted damage with its ground type moves, and even something like the Jellicent really having to fear that super effective payback damage, I thought that Corviknight would be the key to victory for StoneCollection in that matchup. And as it turns out, the Corviknight was actually quite successful, especially in that bracket reset, featuring not only in the decisive game four of that set, but also setting up the victory in game one, where essentially StoneCollection, game one of the bracket reset, Soft loses the lead of Shadow Scizor into Empoleon. He's been doing that a lot. Like, he's been talking about his Shadow Scizor after the fact that it is a rank 11. He got that at the Gdansk Regional Championship. And ever since, he has essentially ditched the spice and just played Shadow Scizor because it's OP.
Yeah.
And yeah, he essentially loses that, uses that to soft lose to Empoleon, gets the farm with Corviknight, and then Pocket has essentially the options of bringing in a Licky Licky or a Kanto Marowak. And because the Kanto Marowak has such a bad matchup, the Licky Licky comes out. The Licky Licky doesn't win that still. And in the back, there's an Azu waiting for the Kanto Marowak. That is why the Empoleon was neutralized to free up that Azumarill, which then just cleans up easily. Yeah, again, the second time the Corviknight comes out, it's another win for StoneCollection. So I will put this one down on, like, I feel like we're 2 for 2 in Germans coming over and doing a lot of Corviknight stuff to do something in the grand finals.
That's fair. That's totally fair. And I'm glad for Corviknight that Stone got the win because that the matchup earlier in the season it was yeah, I felt like yeah, very close. But I digress. Something I wanted to point out, we talked about PvP Steve as a great content creator earlier. I really want to shout out to More Slice Henry, which is Home Slice Henry's alternative channel where he mainly features show 6 content and other content that wouldn't be as successful on his Go Battle League focused main channel. So if you're an enjoyer of the Show 6 podcast, if you like our breakdowns, you need to watch Henry's stuff because he is next level. And if you get a chance, Easy, I would encourage you to watch it as well. I watched his casting of the grand finals, And he pointed out something very, very remarkable. He said that essentially this whole grand finals came down to a guessing game of where the Alola Ninetales would be. Because if you look at Out of Pocket's team, the Alola Ninetales has positive matchups versus StoneCollection's Corviknight, his Guzzlord, his Stunfisk, and his Altaria. It's neutral into the Azumarill, and it's only really worried about something like the Scizor. So what happened was Pocket brought the Alola Ninetales out in game 3 of the initial grand final set, was able to win that battle, but then he just didn't bring it out the rest of the time. I mean, they played, was it 7 games, and he didn't bring it out any of the other 6 battles. And if you look at the teams here from Stone, he brought Azumarill Shadow Scizor every single battle, only changing the third Pokemon. In the grand finals reset, it was Corviknight. Then he went to Guzzlord for game 2. Then he went Stunfisk in game 3. Then he went back to Corviknight in game 4. But that duo of Azumarill and Shadow Scizor were coming no matter what. And then it was really up to Pocket to find a response to that. And Pocket refused to lean into the RPS. And I think that's kind of what opened up the window for these other Pokemon to succeed, like the Guzzlord, like the Stunfisk, like the Corviknight even. Because imagine Stone Save swaps Corviknight and then the Ninetales comes out. It's like really rough.
Yeah, especially like because nobody ever runs Corviknight with Iron Head, so all you can do is Sand Attack, Air Cutter, two moves that are not really known for their damage output. And yeah, with the stab ice damage from that Ninetales, that is not a great time. However, I think you pointed it out quite well. Stone was sort of forced into the Azumarill Scizor core by that Alolan Ninetales, just to always cover your bases, have probably like either ABB or ABA positive matchups against it, but also that made Stone's lines fairly predictable for Pocket and especially for Pocket's Empoleon, which has a very positive matchup, especially against the like Azumarill, where it is able to come out with energy, but also just very reliable and neutralizes or beats rather the Shadow Scizor on even energy. So it wasn't really like, oh, I get this Pokemon on that Pokemon. It was a lot of this threat is coming. How do I neutralize it? And that's how Stone utilized his Shadow Scizor a lot, where he didn't even mind the negative matchup of the Empoleon. He actually favored it just so his Azumarill, which then otherwise would largely be free to bring into Pocket's team, would have like not would have to worry about less pressure from that steel type that resists all its moves.
Agreed. Yeah, very, very well said. And I feel like at that point, once the Empoleon goes down, what's Stone's biggest fear? That there's like a Jellicent back there too. And if you're Pocket and you're running Jellicent and Empoleon, then you do open yourself up to particularly some Guzzlord devastation, maybe even Corviknight being a little bit tricky, or the Scizor, right? If shields go down and you've got Empoleon Jellicent, Scizor is going to tear you to ribbons. So
Even like a Unova Stunfisk, if you just shield that against an Empoleon lead, you will outpace with the Mud Bomb pacing from back in the day, which is not the current
yeah,
Mud Bomb pacing anymore. But yeah, like you would like the Unova Stunfisk would come out very, very healthy, probably healthy enough to still live a surf from the Jellicent, and yeah,
yeah.
that's not a position that you want to be in as Pocket, who is a player not known for building nonsensical lines, but rather playing very efficiently and reasonably into the opposing team comp.
Agreed. So that being said, I really do like it when we get into kind of the push and pull of the team compositions and why players are playing certain Pokemon. I think it illuminates a lot, and I always learn something when we discuss it too. So, but to your point, we had the grand finals forced into a reset. Stone took game 1, Pocket took game 2. We're all tied up, and then StoneCollection is able to win games 3 and 4. Game 3 was actually a simul swap. Both trainers instantly switched their Pokemon out, and yeah, things kind of went StoneCollection's way because Empoleon ran out of steam.
Yeah, honestly, um, I'm not a big Unova Stunfisk believer, but in that game, Unova Stunfisk was everything for Stone because he led that Pokemon into a team composition of Licky Licky, Empoleon, and Galarian Moltres. That's triple soft to the Unova Stunfisk. The simultaneous swap occurred in part because Stone wanted to save a little bit of health on that Stunfisk to deal with whatever was in the back. knowing that there would be the Empoleon, which looked so strong into him time and time again. And yeah, he ended up saving just enough health on the Unova and Stunfisk that it couldn't ever be Metal Sounded down by the Empoleon, because Metal Sound is not a very damaging move. It's also resisted against the electric typing. And then, even though there was never a charge attack from the Unova and Stunfisk that connected with the Empoleon, just the Thunder Shocks added up so
Yeah.
much that it was essentially in range of one player off and a couple bubbles from the Azumarill in the end.
Yeah, exactly. It was such a good kind of game management Pokemon, and Pocket was just really unable to check it, especially with that comp. Because what are you going to do? Roll out into it? What are you going to do? You gonna fly the Stunfisk, or are you going to
Hmm.
soak a Mud Bomb and Napoleon? There's really nothing he could have done there. So very well played. Going into game number 5, I felt this one slip away almost immediately because StoneCollection led his Scizor into Kanto Marowak. The commentators were actually talking about this. I believe it was Henry that said that Stone loves to catch bone clubs on his Corviknights. And guess what? He did exactly that in game 5. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be really tough to come back from.
Yeah, and even though there was just a Unova Stunfisk on the field, it wasn't enough to convince Pocket to bring that Alolan Ninetales, which would have been a good response for the Corviknight. Instead, the energy went to waste, and what was left in the back was just Empoleon and Licky. And with just so much Shadow Scizor left, with a full Azumarill left, and with Corviknight
Yeah.
still getting so much mileage out of that matchup,
Yeah.
yeah, just that energy being denied was enough to really force Pocket's hand here and putting Stone in a very advantageous position.
StoneCollection playing his best season of PvP yet. I think that you can say without any kind of argument or trepidation, he is looking better than he ever has. Great season for him so far, and adds a championship to his resume, which is awesome.
Yeah, started all the way back in 2022 when he put his name on the map with being the Samurott Warrior of the LCQ, where he actually did win his half of the last chance qualifier after the legend has it that he slept on a bench in London, which is
Yes,
a
with the
very price
birds.
conscious move. And yeah, like he used to be the Samurott guy. Then he used to be the Spice guy, even reaching a grand finals in Stuttgart a year ago, a couple months ago actually, with a Clodsire that had both Sludge Bomb and Stone Edge on it.
Right.
Very unusual. Um, but yeah, now actually playing his best season ever, being up there with the best European trainers in the leaderboard rankings. And yeah, I do feel vindicated because in the very early phases of our podcast, we did have an EUIC prediction episode. And I think that was like 2024 or something. I was like, my prediction for this is that StoneCollection wins it all. It wasn't the EUIC, it wasn't 2024, but he did win something at the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, he did announce that he was not going to any more North American regionals, but he will be back for NAIC because he does have that travel award. And he will be at all the remaining European events. So he is not going to slow down.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know if the Europeans are scared. I'm a little bit scared here. I mean, come on. And yeah, to your point with your prediction, I guess a German is never late. They arrive precisely when they mean to. And Stone Collection able to arrive his
Um,
first, actually, yeah, his first gold medal of his career. You can count the LCQ, right? Because he did win that outright, and that earned him his bid into Worlds. But this is the first time he's actually had hardware, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
wow. I look at all these events. My goodness, he's got on Dracoviz. He's got 4 pages of events plus EUIC 2022 as his first. So my gosh, this is crazy.
He's just like, I love it when you know that a player is really into the championship series, because I'm really into the championship series, and I do want people to really make this a big part of their life and get all the joy out of it, just seeing places, seeing people playing the game that we love. And StoneCollection has been doing that to perfection this season. So yeah, it was really fun to see. It was like, I was rooting for him just on a personal level because obviously, like, European bias, but also the others that were up there, like the last three, Dune and Pocket have won so much already.
That's true.
It was time for a different champion. I was like on laughing and on crying eye, but because I do feel for the North Americans that just don't get their invites passed down anymore. Between Steinar winning Pittsburgh, between Stone winning Seattle. But yeah, maybe there will be some spots opening up eventually. You guys got 75 already. We only get 65. Maybe it's evening out.
Well, this should be a call for all North American trainers to grind harder, to scrim more, to team build better. So the next time a trainer from out of
To
region comes
to
through,
travel
just
out of region, do a nighttime clasher, and steal an invite from another
hey,
continent.
hey, what's fair is fair. We had Nighttime Clasher win Liverpool, and this is Europe's revenge, taking a trophy out of NA. So it's just going to seesaw back and forth. I mean, the next logical step here is a North American winning in Europe. So watch out, right?
We'll be watching Prague closely.
Ah, yeah. ZZ says, not if I have something to say about it, right? But well, ZZ, it's been fun. We did a big roundup. I'm not sure if you have any closing thoughts. We've covered a ton of events. This has been a very
Yes.
fast moving episode, and it honestly feels very cathartic to just get all these events caught up on so that we're up to speed.
Yeah, it was time that we closed some loops after we did have to sacrifice some recording sessions for personal responsibilities at the start of February. But now we're all caught up. We've covered all the events, almost all the events, because I believe the San Juan Puerto Rico special event has already concluded, and I believe that Joe Eddy is our champion of that event.
No way.
It was a 16 people event that took place on one day, which was earlier today, but we don't have the teams yet. We don't have much to talk about. But personally, I am glad for Joe Eddy that he managed to take that, not only because he's been somebody who I did briefly talk to in Pittsburgh earlier this season, and who is just like very enthusiastic about committing more time to the championship series, but also he's been very consistent with finishing in top 20, top 32, 25th in Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, and Toronto. So really
Wow.
grinding away at those championship points, and now securing his Worlds invite by winning San Juan. And I do believe this is like largely unconfirmed because I haven't actually checked for myself. It's just like friends told me that he is either from Puerto Rico or has Puerto Rican ancestry. I believe there's like a flag in one of his social profiles. So that would be pretty lovely as well, that this may not even have been a continental American stealing the Puerto Rican invite, but actually is
Oh.
some relation to the region.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, let's go. I'm immediately a fan when I look back at his record. Not the greatest performance in Las Vegas, but he was playing Fortress and Shadow Dragonair, two of my favorite Pokemon of all time. So Joe 80, you have my vote. Very, very well done, my friend. And yeah, well, when we get teams, we'll cover that in full on an upcoming episode of the show. So if you want to hear us do that, make sure to go ahead and follow. Leave us a review as well, because we always appreciate it and we'd love to hear your thoughts. ZZ, we are running a little long here and I won't be respectful of your time, but I still am just itching to hear your thoughts on Memories in Motion. And I want to know if any of our Pokemon are going John Wick.
I'm thinking I'm back.
Well, are
That's a
they?
soundbite that you teased 2 hours back before we recorded.
Yeah.
There it is. But yeah, I believe that the memories in motion, this is very funny actually, because Niantic have a way of really hitting a certain tone when naming their seasons. We used to have the season of Timeless Travels, which initially brought back a couple of crowd favorites or maybe some not so favorite Pokemon that all of a sudden became viable again after a lengthy hiatus. And now we have Memories in Motion, another remembrance themed season. And yeah, a couple of Pokemon that were once meta staples are now back in the meta. And
Okay.
there's been a couple of changes. We can go over some of them in depth a little later, maybe even in another episode. I don't know how much time we have. But Speedy, I have prepared 5 Pokemon, and I want to ask you whether you believe they are very back, a little bit back, or not back at all. And
Ooh, okay.
I think we should start with Medicham. Medicham used to be the countering menace of the Open Great League. Now it's on Psycho Cut, and Psycho Cut did get a damage increase of +1 this season, also sporting Dynamic Punch and Ice Punch coverage, making it potentially potent into the prominent Empoleon Altaria core. What do you think, Speedy? Is Medicham a real contender, or is it still kind of not where it needs to be?
Looking over the top rankings here on this website, I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's called PV Poke. It's pretty good. Looking at the top rankings here, I only see a few hard answers to Medicham. Maybe the Wigglytuff, Galarian Corsola, the Jellicent, which I think is going to be pretty ubiquitous. Um, what are our three gauges? We have kind of back, we have very back, and then we have
Not back at all.
not back at all. For Medicham, why don't you sign me up for? We are so back, Medicham.
Oh, we have a
We are
Medicham
so back.
believer.
Yes.
That
Shout
is
out to the
very,
Texan.
very interesting. I believe that
Oh, it's back.
Medicham can do something, but I'm personally just a little bit more hesitant about Medicham's impact into the new season, and
Okay.
that is mainly because its bad matchups are very bad. You do not
Fair.
want to be a Medicham when there is an Azumarill. You do not want to be a Medicham when there is a Jellicent, but I may be mistaken. Not Jellicent. Azumarill and Medicham used to coexist in the same meta before, so maybe I'm just
True.
overly cautious. But I believe that, especially with Pokemon like Annihilate now being all the rage, even more rage than before because you get to your Rage Fists faster. Now that Low Kick is an energy generating fast attack and potentially even preferred over counter. I feel like the fighting type slot is a little too crowded just with that big undead monkey roaming around. So I would say Medicham is a little back, but there are still some question marks surrounding it where I would say it's not quite where it needs to be to really rule the meta once more. Um,
That's very fair. That's very fair. Okay. I'm keeping track of our notes here so that we can verify these when Houston comes around.
yes. Okay. The next one may be a little bit of a controversial one because
Ooh.
this Pokemon did not get buffed, but it did receive something that I would call an environmental buff because Mudslap got nerfed, Bullet Punch got nerfed. There will be a lot less Kanto Marowak. There will be a lot less Shadow Scizor. And who appreciates that? It's Shadow Drapion. It is Azu's partner in crime. It is the dark poison type Pokemon. Poison Sting, Aqua Tail Crunch, very spammy, very flexible, very difficult to hard answer. Is Shadow Drapion back?
You know, it's not the Pokemon I thought you were going to talk about, but I do think Shadow Drapion is back. Even though I'm not super thrilled about it, I think it is back.
I believe so too. I think we are in agreement here. Shadow Drapion is so back. I don't believe there is much that really stops this Pokemon anymore. Especially because even some of its hard checks like Guzzlord, which does wall all the commonly used charge attacks on
Sure.
the Shadow Drapion. Guzzlord does not have the same fast attack damage from Dragon Tail it used to have before the rework, and it also doesn't select to run Dragon Claw anymore as its coverage move. So you are essentially caught with two Pokemon just throwing resisted charge attacks at each other, which means that really hard covering Shadow Drapion, I don't know whether it's impossible, but it is a lot more difficult than you would think it could be with the
Fair.
with the options that we have currently in the meta.
I've had a lot of friends begging for a nerf to Mudslap. Well, here you go. I hope they were
Yeah,
happy.
you'll get your Drapion and you will enjoy it.
Yes. All
So yeah.
right.
Anyway, okay, this is another interesting one because even way back before we had the Drapion infestation, not the infestation Drapion, that would be a suboptimal fast attack, but um, during the reign of Shadow Drapion and Azumarill, this Pokemon was already long out of the meta. It was instead a 2022-2023-ish staple with Noctowl. Noctowl, the Ghost Slayer, the flying normal type of choice all the way back in the day when the worst thing that could happen to you possibly was to hardlock your Trevenant onto a Noctowl and just throwing heat bombs so impotently until you got wing attacked all the way down to the ground,
Uh,
and Noctowl coming out with two Sky Attacks loaded. Noctowl did receive a buff to Shadow Ball. Everybody received a buff to Shadow Ball, but also Sky Attack isn't as good as it used to be back in the day. So what do we think? Is Noctowl really back, or has the meta moved on without it, even now that it got Wing Attack back?
that's a very fair question. You still have Pokemon like Rollout Licky Licky, which I do think you need to be worried about that. You've got Steel types. Empoleon is not going anywhere either. Um, but you do have some targets, right? If you want to answer for Jellicent, it's it's very solid, I think, to look towards Knockdown because it does give you a lot of flexible neutral play. And I haven't played too much Go Battle League this season, but I was running a Knockdown team earlier today, and I did like the feel of it. It did feel like it was very sturdy, very reliable, very strong Pokemon. Um, I think Knockdown is kind of back. I don't know if we're going to see it top cutting, but I do think it will get some play in tournaments.
I think Noctowl is a fraud. I think it is not back at
Whoa!
all. It is like it did make the top 100 in the PvPog rankings, but the PvPog rankings only take into account the zero and the one shield matchup, which are the strongest shielding scenarios for Noctowl. But as soon as you have two shields in play, it really gets exposed for its lack of pacing with the cheapest charge attack that it commonly runs, being 50 energy, which is still very expensive, even with that 8 energy per wing attack. So I feel as if Noctowl, while looking good on paper, is just going to be outpaced by too many things now. I think the power creep really hasn't been kind to it, and
Fair.
with the lack of prominent ground types, prominent mud slappers, giving more of an opening for electric types as well. I believe that flying types really need to set themselves apart properly in this iteration of the meta, and I don't feel as if Noctowl can really do that just now.
Very solid argument. No rebuke, no retort.
All right, I will take that, and I will move us over to a Pokemon that had a very funny matchup into Noctowl actually, because there were like breakpoint, bulk point scenarios. Oh, two Shadow Balls, can they eventually knock out? What I'm talking about is Galarian Stunfisk. We've seen a lot of Unnovan
Oh,
Stunfisk these days, but Galarian Stunfisk, it used to be like nerfed in all compartments, like every aspect of its being was just being hit with a sledgehammer. Mudshot worse, Rockslide worse, Earthquake worse than at its heyday all the way back in 2022 ish. Um, but now we have the old Mudshot back. We have a rebuff of Rockslide a while ago. Earthquake still not where it used to be, but it's not as if it's a bad move. It's just not as powerful as back in the day. So now that Mud Slappers are out of the meta, is Galarian Stunfisk in the meta again?
the answer is no. And the answer is no for one very
Oh,
specific reason. There's still too much water in the meta. There's water all over the place, and I feel like Stunfisk, while you're gonna hardwall opposing fairy type Pokemon like maybe the Clefable or the Wigglytuff, Floor just has chilling water now. There've been a lot of moveset updates since Stunfisk was prominent, and I feel like a lot of Pokemon have gained the coverage that they need in order to beat it. So Stunfisk, I've heard some rumblings about this Pokemon, but I'm not sold, and it's because water is the best typing in Pokemon Go.
all right, all right. I can't really deny that. I still do have Galarian Stunfisk in my it's a little bit back category. It's towards the lower end of that category. So it's below Medicham in my personal ranking. Um, but I do believe that Stunfisk has some things going for it just
Mm.
because of that 10 turn pacing to rock slide again, which is the threshold that you need to be viable, in my opinion, and also because of what the VG players would call edge quake coverage. It's not stone edge, but it's still a rock type attack plus the
Yeah.
earthquake that is just so powerful into so many different Pokemon. there is stuff that holds it back. The waters are one thing, the lack of fast move pressure is another thing, and do not look up the even energy matchups against Altaria. It's also not great. Um, so still a couple of arguments against Galarian Stunfisk, but I think it's in a better position, and maybe
Sure.
you will eventually. Maybe you just need something that really hard punishes electric types on your team, and you maybe want to roll that into your steel roll, and you don't opt for Empoleon, but rather for Galarian Stunfisk. And there will be scenarios where that could make sense. I just don't believe that those scenarios will be plentiful. So I have it on the like towards the lower end of yeah, it's kind of viable, but it's not going to
Yeah.
dominate the
Well,
meta.
well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying as well. I mean, you've got a flamethrower Altaria, you've got Sand Tomb Fortress, so it doesn't even need to get to the Earthquake anymore. You've got Ice Punch Dusclops, you could argue has a little more coverage. Celia with Surf is another one. I mean, there's just so many different Chilling Water Florges. There's so many different ways to hit the Stunfisk now that these Pokemon prior to this did not have access to these moves at all. So it was like if you had Stunfisk into Altaria, that was a hard win. Not anymore. I think it's competitive now, at least more than it was
That's
so
fair.
before. So,
That's fair.
yeah, I'm not a believer. I'm
Okay.
not.
We have one last Pokemon,
All
and
right.
let's see whether this can make you a believer. Because this is a Pokemon that was fairly prominent all the way until, I believe, 2024 Worlds. But then it got kind of pushed out of the meta because its neutral potency wasn't as important anymore in an environment where everything was sucker punching and astonishing. We are talking about Cresselia, which is obviously a legendary with an insane stat product and the coverage of Grass Knot and typically Moonblast. There were instances where Future Sight was preferred, but I don't believe those were common. And it is running Psycho Cat as its default fast attack, which just charges very, very quickly, and now also does one more damage, the same as with Medicham. So, do you believe that Cresselia now with no more Shadow Scizor and with just generally maybe like a little bit of a meta shakeup is going to be good enough to contend with the current meta with that +1 damage buff?
ZZ, I've really given this a lot of thought. It's been a lot of deliberation. I've considered all the positives and the negatives here. But my final opinion is actually fraud.
Aww.
Cresselia is a huge fraud. Come on, there's way too much
Ah,
Ghost and Dark type coverage in the meta still. Come on, be
that's
real.
pretty rude. That's pretty
Be
rude.
real.
I will actually say that if you cover well for it, Cresselia can be such a nice core breaker because it is not an electric type, but it still does a thing that you want your electric types to do, which is to really break up those Altaria plus Azu, Altaria plus Quagsire, like the Mudboy type of coverage. Like you can really play super well into that with your Grassnot plus Moonblast, and you now have just the amount of better neutral matchups to at least have a reason to run this Pokemon. And I personally believe that Cresselia is just a little better than Medicham. And the reason why I believe that is that I've been playing a lot of Cresselia. I got a rank 3 Cresselia from a trade
Ooh.
just when it became bad. And now I have now I have something to I just need to make up for that, okay? And I've been playing
That's
it in
fair.
Go Battle League. I paired it to protect my King Gambit, which is another Pokemon of all time, but I just really enjoy it. I wouldn't recommend people to try that at home, but it's just been covering it so well. There's no more Talonflames, so I can run those two together. Um,
Mm.
and I have also played a practice tournament with it, where I modified my 2024 Worlds team by only changing a Lantern for a Charger Bug and a Shadow Dragonair for a Guzzlord to go with the time set a little bit. But I kept the entire rest, and one of the Pokemon was the Cresselia. And thus far, I've not dropped a set with that team. So I went 5-0 in
Really?
that practice tournament, and Cresselia came to almost every game. So it must be doing something right. So while I still feel as if on paper there's reasons to not believe in it, my practical experiences with Cresselia lead me to believe that it is on the upper end of maybe.
Well, one of our two hosts on this show has made 5 grand finals appearances, and the other one has made 0 in the championship series. So I really should trust in the ZZ. I do think you are an incredible chef and you always know what's up long before I do, to be fair. But I just can't help but look at the matchups here on PV Poke. I mean, key losses: Empoleon, Furret, Shadow Drapion, Wigglytuff, Florges. I mean, these are not uncommon Pokemon. So, whereas, we might see Cresselia in Go Battle League having success, and I think if you can maneuver it just right and avoid some of these tougher matchups, you do have that core breaking potential. I don't know. I'm not sold on it as a new staple Pokemon going forward.
Okay, one more argument in favor of Cresselia. This is the first time Cresselia has been available to the general public in a 45-second switch timer economy. So you can leverage that immense bulk on that Pokemon, rivaling Pokemon like Azumarill, to just tank a bunch of charge attacks, tank a bunch of energy from other Pokemon, farm up your own moves, dip out again, maybe use those against the squishy Pokemon later in the matchup, just really play that switch timer really well, which is maybe why I like it so much. I feel like Cresselia is just a Pokemon that really lends itself well to that playstyle.
Okay. Interesting. It might be situational. It might be people like yourself that understand the switch timer can pull it in and out and make the most of its utility. But I don't know. I don't know, ZZ. I'm not a believer currently, but I'm sure you'll make me one when you win an event with it. So
I will be at Sevilla, and maybe Cresselia will be too. I am not yet decided. I will have to look at the upcoming regional competitions. I believe there's
right.
the Curitiba regional in Brazil coming up, and a week after there's the Houston regional in North America. So that is going to be televised, and I am looking forward to watching.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm curious to see if our predictions turn out to be right. I would love for everybody to drop us a comment if you are watching the YouTube version when it comes out, or if you just see us in person. Like one lovely lady that I bumped into in Seattle complimented our show. I feel so bad that I didn't mention it until now, but she was so wonderful. And I wish I would have gotten her trainer name. But yeah, she says she listens to every episode, really adores the show. And sometimes she says when she's prepping for a regional, if she hasn't been able to listen to a new episode of the Show 6 podcast, she feels unprepared. So
Oh,
I'm
oh, we have
telling
that
you,
level of influence.
I'm
That's
telling you,
flattering.
and I feel so proud, right? It's definitely
Now I
it's
feel
very
bad
impressive.
about our uploading schedule, which has been
I
fairly
know,
infrequent.
I
But we're
know.
getting better about that. We're getting better about
Hey,
that.
it's never too late to change. I've been quietly uploading our YouTube versions on YouTube, and if you'd like to watch those are available. I need to upload. I need to edit and upload EUIC recap, and then this one, which this one is a bear. ZZ, I think this is our biggest episode we've ever done at over 3 hours. So Tostel, I hope you're happy because this was a long one, and I'm
Yeah.
keeping ZZ from his restful night. So
If people have a long drive ahead, they have something to listen to. So I do enjoy. Like we originally set out to keep this like very short, very concise, like 30 to 45 minutes. That was your original pitch to me like years ago.
yeah.
We have strayed away from the line, but it's for the better because how else would we do justice to all those events that we covered if we only
It's
had
true.
45 minutes for that?
I think the 1 hour episode works if there's like one event. I think we,
Yeah.
we covered Toronto in 1 hour. We've done several events in 1 hour, but when there's more than one, it's not fun.
Arguably, we would be on the 1 hour rhythm if we just like had a regular uploading schedule. But again,
Sure.
this is like very much partly on me because there are a lot of late
Yeah.
shifts, and then it may be just a little too late to get a recording going. But hey, March is a little
Well,
more free for me. Almost as free as North America, so this is going to bode well.
on that note, I'm recruiting a new host. If you'd like to audition for the just kidding. Just kidding. But yeah, that does still sting a little bit. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if our trainers in North America can defend ourselves in Houston. We'll see how the meta develops as we move through Curitiba and the other events that are coming up this month. And yeah, we'll see how the battle system looks. I don't even want to get into that, but let's just rest assured knowing that we're on the legacy
Yeah.
battle system for now, and we'll see how things progress. Okay, so
I think we can be confident that they will not force this on us before it's good enough to be forced on us, even though there's like test runs. But
yeah,
I, I feel as if they know well enough how this would look if it was rolled out for a regional that we don't have to worry about that.
I agree. I agree. I think everybody can kind of simmer down for now. I know there have been a lot of people really upset with the new version, and I'm grateful as well that that is not what we are working with right now. So we'll see. We'll see, everybody. Don't hold your breath, but we'll see. And you know what? It made me appreciate our current version so much more. I will say that.
This is
It makes me
true.
so grateful for what we
Mm.
currently have. So, with that being said, ZZ, it's been a long show. We are 3 hours and 9 minutes in roughly. I think this is probably it. If you're road tripping on the way to Houston, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you're listening to it in the shower, make sure to wash the back of your ears because I always forget mine. So we appreciate you all for listening. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts, ZZ.
I just feel as if like you are probably pretty washed if you are in the shower for 2 hours and 10 minutes. But all right, almost as washed as North Americans. Um,
Okay, on that note, we are really ending the show. All right, ZZ, get some rest. You're obviously delirious, and it's making you say things that are just out of character. But it's been a fun one, my friend. I'm glad that we are all caught up. I'll work on getting those two YouTube versions uploaded. We'll get them done this week, no matter what happens, even if there's a meteor that strikes the planet. But we'll get it done. All right, ZZ, always a pleasure, my friend. Get some rest, and I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll see you very soon. Bye bye.